Okay, good morning, everyone. Once again, this is Jodie Siemens from Taking Perspective. Thank you for joining me. Today's webinar is Giving Up Control and Trusting. For those who don't know, I'm an accountability and mindset coach. I help busy professional women, but not limited to, pretty much stop running flat out in circles and helping them gain some professional private life balance. I pretty much help women get organised, which is a pretty exciting thing to do. I hold these webinars for 15 to 20 minutes every Friday morning, and the topics vary from week to week. This week we are chatting about, once again, giving up control and trusting. So thank you for all those who've made it live this morning, and let's get to it. Alrighty, so giving up control and trusting. What are we afraid of? The topics we're going to discuss this morning are why letting go of control is so hard, how do we release the need for control, and all about the surrender mindset. So firstly, why letting go of control is so hard. Often we try to control things because what we think will happen if we don't. If that makes sense to people, it's about what we think will happen if we don't control the situation. And it's pretty much rooted by fear. In times of uncertainty, often people will find themselves feeling safer when they've got a sense of control. And this will often lead to attempts of controlling outcomes, situations, controlling other people even, very much controlling your reactions to situations, the environment. And the more uncertain the situation, the more people tend to attempt to control the situation. And you'll find that by trying to constantly control a situation, you're not actually in control of it at all. In fact, the opposite is true. When you experience the greatest sense of calm, hello to everyone on Facebook, the greatest sense of calm, we tend to have more of a peace of mind, and the urgency for one's destiny, we often shift this into a different mindset. And the shift of the mindset is really towards a self-efficacy rather than controlling a situation. And self-efficacy is a hard word to say, but also it is the belief that we can do what needs to be done no matter what is in front of us. It demonstrates our confidence, it demonstrates our abilities to persevere through challenges, and it just demonstrates our resilience overall. So the shift requires us to let go of controlling outcomes, okay? And here we've got an image with a globe. And from here you can think about, like, it's really about controlling your perspective and taking that moment to reflect and think back. And I'll ask you to do this now, actually. Just take a moment, reflect, and think back to the last time that, shall I say, you were hell-bent on controlling an outcome about something. Think about what the result was. Think about whether it went in your favour. Possibly it did, but possibly it didn't also. And if it didn't turn out the way you were trying to control the situation, the situation's outcome, when you actually got the outcome, did it turn out to be the best result? Often we tend to push things, and the path that we so desperately want to go down is not always the most valuable to us or the most productive one. So just take a moment when you get the chance and really have a think about when the last time you tried to control a situation and what was the end result for you. And moving on, I'm going to close that. Okay, so how do we release the need for control? Okay, I spoke about oftentimes with the path that we so desperately want to be on is not often the most valuable or productive one. And I think one thing people really have to understand is no one is ever truly in control. From a young age, we are taught to make good grades, to pay our bills, to make sure your career is always on track. And when you don't meet every need in these items, you often feel that these are on the perfectly in control list. When you feel that you're not making and meeting these requirements, you're often left feeling quite overwhelmed. It can cause a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and it's really about putting excess pressure on yourself. So no matter how the outside looks, again, no one is ever fully in control. Our health, our family, what we're born into, the bodies we live in to a certain extent are all beyond our control, no matter how hard we actually try. So it can be quite tricky to learn to give up the control, or at least the desire for it. But by expressing things like gratitude, embracing helplessness, observing nature, these are just a few things that you can do to live more cooperatively with yourself and with the universe, if that's your train of thought. So we often attach ourselves to outcomes. We push for things that we don't necessarily need to push for. And when they don't go our way and we find ourselves not running the show, it sort of shocks us to a degree, because that lack of control and being able to let go, it's like loss in a way. Giving up something is a form of loss, something that you've been that's been ingrained in you for a long time. If this is your personality and what you do, it's when you change a pattern, you go through a period of like a grief for it and a period of loss. So the reality is that things go so much more smoothly when we allow them to happen, and instead of trying to push and make them happen. And letting go of control also means there's a lot more joy in your life. There's a lot more freedom, peace, and connection. You get more support from others. So there is a peaceful yet focused energy that accompanies holding the intention of what I want, not forcing myself to do it. There's a spelling error there, sorry. Had to stop and read that. That didn't quite make sense. But yeah, so there is a peaceful yet focused energy that accomplishes holding the intention of what I want, not forcing myself to do it. And that doesn't mean you're living a life of inaction either. So please don't confuse that. It's about surrendering, I suppose, to that element of holding the faith, but yet still making the steps to move forward, and really following the least path of resistance, ultimately. So here's a quote for you. The energy of surrender accomplishes much more than the energy of control. The author of that is unknown, but I found it to be quite a good quote with what we're talking about. So just to reiterate also, like I'm also still a work in process. You know, everybody is. We're forever learning, we're ever changing our patterns, but I'm trying to go out of my way to not allow it to become a habit, and instead of like allowing it to become the habit, instead of making it the habit, if you know what I mean. Like it's not something that I'm trying to force, but it's certainly something that I am taking action towards in myself. So all about the surrender and mindset. Surrendering to the unknown can be scary because it signals vulnerability, and vulnerability is, there's so many things that come along with that, and it does scare a lot of people. This is rooted in the belief that we know the right path and we know how to get there. But what happens if the unexpected happens? Something that's not fixable. So if we talk about things that have happened recently with us, like the pandemic, a lot of illnesses, there's been a lot of deaths, hopefully none of you, your loved ones, a significant change in your work. It takes strength and courage to surrender. And I think that's what people need to understand. And other people around you need to be compassionate towards, not so much empathetic, but definitely compassionate towards you when you're going through these changes. So again, to clarify, surrender is not about inaction. It's about taking action from a place of surrendered energy, a place where you're not forcing, a place where you are going out of your way to take the path of least resistance. But again, you're still taking steps towards what you need to do. So control is a result of being attached to a specific outcome, an outcome you're sure is best for you, us, or the people in your situation, depending on what it's about. And we always seem to know what's best. When we trust that we're okay, no matter what the circumstances that come our way are, we don't feel the need to micromanage the universe. We just let go. And we often find ourselves in all sorts of wonderful possibilities that aren't attached to the one right path. And if you're so caught up in constantly controlling that right path, you often lose peripheral vision of other things that are around you, and you can miss things in life, and often they're wonderful experiences. So here's another quote that I found. I trust and surrender to the universe that everything is unfolding exactly as it's meant to be, exactly when it's meant to be. Okay, so in summary, got a quote here from Frederick Salmon Pearls. The person most in control is the person giving up control. I found that to be a really good quote. So the person most in control is actually the person giving up control. So again, personal growth comes from working through a difficult situation, pushing through your comfort zone, and embracing the emotions, whether they be positive or negative, and it is all a part of growth. This is a part of creating patterns of change. We try to control things because of what we think will happen if we don't. And again, this is just rooted by the fear of unknowing. The reality is that things will go much smoothly for you if you would just allow things to happen instead of trying to force them to happen. Because letting go of control will always feel as though you have more freedom, more peace, more connection, and more support in your life. And surrender literally means to stop fighting with yourself, stop fighting with the universe and the natural flow of things. Stop resisting and pushing against reality. When we trust that we're going to be okay, no matter what the circumstances come our way, we don't need to micromanage our lives and the results. So this is, again, all about resilience and things like that. So I have some more information on helping you build resilience. If that's something you would like to know about, please send me a message and I will get that information to you. So that is the end of today's webinar on giving up control and trusting. So here I have my social media. get that out of the way. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. I also have started a podcast on empowering ordinary women. I will be doing an interview in the next few weeks with a lady in regards to nutrition. She is also a life coach, but also a qualified nutrition. So she's amazing. So I look forward to interviewing her and sharing her knowledge. That's my podcast, Empowering Ordinary Women. Some of you will also be aware of the fact that one of my groups is closing down as of this week. So you can follow me and join me on my group, Organizational Secrets for Empowered Women. I would love to have you there and share more information. This is where this webinar is being live streamed to. So you get those, you also get more lives and more information. Closing down the other group will free up more time to give the Organizational Secrets for Empowered Women more of my time. So I'm really looking forward to that. So next webinar is Friday the 4th of February. And that webinar will be on, do you have conflicting priorities or competing priorities, more to the point. It's the same sort of thing, but do you have competing priorities is what next week's webinar live at 9 a.m. is going to be. Follow the links to register. And thank you again for joining me this morning. This is Jodie Siemens from Taking Perspective. Thanks, everyone.